if you like to think of tonight as kind of a gentler practice. We're going to hold things just a little bit longer than usual, two specific poses, but they should be nice and friendly for those longer holds. So you can see I've got my blanket sort of spread out at the tail end of my mat, and then I've got my stack of pillows out in front of me. But now to get started, we're going to start in standing, and we're going to locate our little bony hip points, those little protruding hip points, and then draw your hands in about 2 inches, and you're just going to get like a nice open palm situation, and gently push your fingers in just slightly so you feel a little bit of soft tissue in the belly. And then we're just going to circle the hips, circle in one direction. Keep that gentle pushing in sensation right at that soft tissue inside of those hip points. Nice. Take one more circle around in this direction, and then keep that gentle pushing in and circle your hips the other way. Take it nice and slow. So more think about focusing on pushing that pressure into the fingertips, which might slow your circles down just a little bit. Awesome. Take one more circle around, and then let your circling hips come to stillness. Let your arms just kind of hang out at your sides and let your knees be soft. And then if it feels okay to do so, close your eyes down for just a moment. Notice how your body feels. And as we're just coming around after that time change, get a sense, or just kind of just do a little recap of your weekend. Have you gotten enough sleep, and did you get good quality sleep or good nourishing sleep this weekend and overnight? And then if the answer is no, then think about allowing just a little bit of extra softness or gentleness in your practice tonight. So with that being said, take a second to coming down. Our first posture that we're going to get to is extended child's pose. So we're going to use our stack of pillows. Think big toes together, knees out just as wide as feels good to you. So I like a really wide position, but you might find a closer position feels a little bit more comfortable on the hips. So whichever version you like best, take your stack of pillows, bring it in front of you, and then we're just going to sort of soften over that stack of pillows. And head's going to turn one way, and this is going to be one of those places where we're going to on one hold for 3 minutes with our head turned in one direction, and then we're going to hold for 3 minutes with our head turned the other way. So wherever you turn your head, get it so it's nice and comfy, and then let everything kind of snuggle down. Take a second to wiggle your hips into a good position. Make sure your toes feel like they're in a good position. Take one more breath here. And then if your head is turned in one direction, go ahead and turn it the other way. And then just do a quick little check-in, making sure that everything feels good. And then if it's all feeling good, just stay in that nice steady position. But if it feels like you need to readjust anything, your pillows or your knees or your feet, take a second to do it and then come right back to that child's pose with the head turned the other way. And then invite some softness back in. Soften into your back, soften into your hips. And I'm going to keep my head turned out towards the screen just for my microphone's sake. You turn your head the other way if it feels available, and then settle right back into that position. Maybe allow your eyes to close down. Take one more breath here. And then when you're ready, slowly, slowly, slowly start to bring yourself up away from your stack of pillows. Take your time. We're going to move the stack off to the side, and then we're going to start to find our way to Sukhasana, or an easy seat with our legs crossed. So as you come on up, if you like, for a moment, just swing your legs out in front of you and just give everything a little wiggle. Wiggle out your knees, wiggle out your hips, wiggle out your toes, wiggle out your ankles. And if you had your blanket underneath you, maybe just scooch that a little out of the way too. And then we're going to find our way into our Sukhasana, or crisscross applesauce, whatever you like to call it. But we're going to take it into just a little different variation than what we've normally done. So you're going to find that crisscross seat, and then you're going to lean over to one side and let your elbow find the ground. And then you might choose here to take one of your pillows, and it's just really going to depend on your leg and your ankle. But you might choose to take one of your pillows and kind of stack it so that your leg feels slightly supported. But we want that hip lift. So I'm going to turn a couple of ways so you can see. So we want to lean out, find that hip lift, and then imagine you're getting a side bend. So you're going to find that big reach up and overhead. So we're going to find the side bend, and then you might choose to, instead of fatiguing that arm and letting it be heavy up and overhead, you might choose to tuck it behind. I like the heaviness, especially in this leaning over sideways position, because I don't even have to effort too much with that arm, but you're going to choose what feels good. So take a second to kind of find a position where you're leaning slightly over into your hip. And then if you like, take your pillow, stack it under your hip and your leg. And then once you've got your way there, arm up or arm down, totally up to you. But think about letting your hip get super heavy down into the ground and just let your top arm be heavy as well. And then if you want just a little added bonus, you can turn your head and look down towards the ground, but only if that feels good. We've already been here for a minute, so just do a quick little assess and make sure everything's feeling good, that you're breathing comfortably, your leg feels supported, you're feeling that opening through the side body, and you might even feel a little stretch down into that low back side body, kind of where the side of your hip hugs around towards that low back. So you might feel a little sensation there. And then but as long as your arm feels comfortable, if your arm does not feel comfortable, if you're feeling any shooting or zinging pain up into the arm or the shoulder, let it go, let it tuck behind you so that you're not putting too much fatigue into that arm. Take one more breath here. And then when you're ready, if that arm is up and overhead, go ahead and gently release it. Take your time, come upright, and then move. If you had any props underneath you, take a second to move it out. And then just take a moment to kind of shrug out that shoulder, especially if it was lifted up and overhead. Maybe even give your knees a little wiggle. And then just take a moment to note which leg was in front. And then we're going to switch the cross in our legs. But if you need to release for a second, go ahead and release them nice and long. And then just depending on which leg was in front, go ahead and switch the cross in your legs. And then we're going to reset to the other side. So we're going to start by bringing that elbow down to the ground, lean out and find that nice little hip lift. And then from there, you just assess, does the ankle need support? Does the leg need support? And if so, take your pillow, tuck it underneath the thigh and the hip, and then come back to that lean. So we're leaning out, allowing the hip to get nice and heavy towards the ground. And then you take that top arm in whatever way you like best. So if you like it up and overhead, letting it be heavy, take it there. And what we're shooting for, or what we're hoping to find, is opening through the ribs and that connective tissue in the ribs. So we want to sort of let go and soften, let the hip be heavy, let your top arm be nice and heavy so that we can open up through the ribs, and then just let your breath do the rest of the work here for you. We've already been in this pose on this side for 1 minute, so just do a quick assess, make sure everything is feeling good. The leg feels supported and the arm is not feeling too fatigued. And if it is, release it behind you so that you get a comfortable position. You're still going to get that side bend, maybe just not so much up in that thoracic area. Take one more breath here. And then if that arm is up and overhead, go ahead and release that first, and then slowly bring yourself up. Shrug out your shoulder, wiggle out your hips, bring just some gentle movement in, just to kind of move around anything that we may have come across. And then move your pillow out of the way from that hip, send your legs out in front of you, and give everything a little bit of movement here. Wiggle your toes, move your ankles, pop your knees. Our next position we're going to get to is going to be a seated forward fold. But if you've just had one of those days where a dangle would feel better and you would rather stand up and let gravity work for you a little bit, feel free to stand up and take your fold at a dangle. But if it feels good to keep it in a more supported position, we're going to take that single pillow, we're going to tuck it up under the knees so that we get that nice bent knee position. And then from here, just fold yourself over to a depth that feels good to you. Excuse me. So make a little space for yourself, soften into that fold. And it does not need to be an extreme fold for you to feel sensation. So I can fold, I practice yoga all the time, so I'm pretty flexy. But if a fold is really just more a slight lean forward of your heart, then that's where you are. Stay in the position that feels the most beneficial to your body so that you can soften into that fold in a way that feels right for you. Soften your legs, soften your shoulders, soften the back of your neck. We have about a minute left in our hold here, so just check in. If you've lost sensation and whatever that means to you, you might feel like you want to fold a little bit deeper, so create a little space and sink a little bit further forward. But if you feel good and you're happy in your position, stay where you are. And then if you need to lighten up in any way that you need to. Take one more breath here. And then when you're ready, slowly and gently bring yourself up and out of that fold. Bend your knees, move your pillow or whatever you were using underneath your knees out of the way, and then walk your feet in a little bit closer. Hold onto your knees, and we'll take a couple of cat cows here. Inhale as you lift your chest, squeeze your shoulder blades. Exhale, round your back and around your shoulders. And then just make that a nice fluid movement. Inhale to lift and exhale to round, just to bring a little bit of fluidity back into the spine. And then once you feel like you've kind of got all of that worked out, if you feel comfortable, you're going to spin around and we're going to come down onto the belly. If being belly down tonight is not going to feel good to you, then you're going to take this from your back. But it's just going to be a lying down tree pose. So if you've got your blanket and your pillow and stuff, kind of scooch everything out of the way. And then you might bring your props back in, just all things depending. So we're going to come down onto the belly. Take a second to kind of wiggle out your bum, make sure everything feels good. We're going to keep our hands in a nice little stack and let the forehead rest, but then you might readjust. You might choose to bring a pillow in or any other prop. Now we're going to take it into a tree pose. So we're going to bend the right knee, slide the foot up to a depth that feels comfortable. You want to be able to relax your butt, relax your thighs, soften your forehead down. And then right away notice. So if you're in that belly down position and it's not going to be good for you tonight, you might choose to flip over onto your back and take your tree pose with your belly facing up. But if it feels okay to be here, see if you can invite some softness in, soften your low back. You might not feel a lot of sensation in this pose, or at least I personally don't get a lot of sensation here, but that's kind of the point. So you want to avoid too much intense sensation and see where can you soften. We get a little bit of a shortening of that front hip flexor muscle. So especially right in that crease of your hip, if you can let those muscles chill out, let your sides of your thighs and your glutes chill out, you might find the more beneficial work in the relaxation over the big sensation or stretch. Take a moment to tune in and notice if you've picked up tension in your feet, in your hips, or your inner thigh. See where can you soften? Can you soften your jaw? Take one more breath here. And then when you're ready, slowly lift your head away from your hands, slide your right leg back, and then we're just going to bend both knees and give the heels a little swish side to side. We want to make sure the low back still feels good and comfortable. If you got into this position belly down and you said, okay, for the other side, I think I'd rather flip over, now might be a good time to do that. But if all is feeling good, we're just going to take that tree pose right to the other side. So you're going to let your toes come down, slide that left leg up into a bent knee position that works good for you. So you don't have to go far, and it does not need to be extreme. The knee is externally rotated. And then once you've got all of that going on, everything else just comes to a stillness. Soften your head. And then right away, as you settle into this pose, where can you invite softness in? Can you soften your low back? Can you invite softness right into that hip crease where that left knee is bent? Can you notice that space and then allow a little time to just let those muscles around that area chill out? Take one more breath here. And then when you're ready, slowly start by lifting your head away from your hands. Slide that left leg back. We're going to bend both knees, give the heels a little swish side to side just to kind of soothe it all out. And then when you feel ready, we're going to push our way up into a tabletop position. So float the toes down, push your way up to that tabletop. We're going to take a quick little puppy pose just to kind of stretch the upper body before we find our way onto our back. So walk your hands towards the top edge of your mat. Keep your hips fairly in line with your knees. Let your chest and your forehead melt down, and take about 3 to 5 nice deep breaths here. Take one more breath. And then when you're ready, slowly and mindfully walk yourself back up and in. And then we're going to swing the legs out and around so that we have access to the bottoms of our feet. So we're going to kind of mush the feet around before we set ourselves up to our reclined cobbler's pose. So if you can, take one leg across, doesn't matter which side, we're going to do both, but we would just want to have access to the bottom of the foot. And then just like you're giving yourself a little foot massage, start by just kind of mushing around the bottom of the foot and the toes. Just kind of get a sense of how your feet is feeling. And then we're going to wring it out like a dish towel. So you're going to take your hands and sort of twist them, twisting up towards the toes and then twisting down towards the ankle. And we want to kind of move the skin a little bit, move the connective tissue. Don't injure yourself, so only go as deep as feels right. Take a couple little twists and turns up and down. Nice. One more little twist up and down, and then use your hand and let your hand do all the work. Draw your foot in circles, go in one direction. Draw your foot in circles, go the other way. And then we're going to give 10 good hits to the bottom of the heel. So use the heel of your hand, not the bottom of the heel of your hand, the sole of your foot. So we're going to take the heel of the hand and give about 10 good pats to the bottom of the foot. And then when you're ready, lift that leg off, send it out nice and long, give your foot a little wiggle, and then we're going to take it right to the other side. So if you can, catch hold of your foot, get just somewhere that you have access to it. And then just a nice little light massage, just kind of mush around the bottom of the foot, the toes. Notice how your foot feels. And then if it feels good to do so, now you're going to take that little dish towel ring. So we're just going to twist and turn up towards the toes and twist and turn down towards the ankle. Awesome. Give one more good twist up and down. And then use your hand to do the heavy lifting. Take your foot, draw it in circles, go in one direction. Take your foot, draw it in circles, go the other way. And then heel of the hand to the sole of the foot. 10 good taps to that bottom of the foot. Nice. And then when you're ready, help lift that leg off, give everything a little wiggle. Wiggle your toes, wiggle your ankles, bounce your knees. And then we're going to use our blanket. We're going to use our pillows. We're going to get all of our props involved here. So if you can, get your blanket to a nice long configuration, which means you might have to kind of fold it around a little bit, but we want to get it to its nice long situation so that we can bring the soles of the feet together. We're going to take our stack of pillows, get that all set up behind you. So it's going to be a nice supported back bend and a supported butterfly position. So you're going to take your soles of your feet together, put your blanket across the tops of your feet, and then you're going to tuck that blanket like a little nest all around your legs so that that keeps you nice and supported. So you want to tuck it up against the hips. It should be a nice little cozy nest around you. And then take your stack of pillows, bring it up long ways so that you're going to be able to lower your back onto it. You want to keep your tailbone off and then start to find your way down. Lower yourself onto your blanket or onto your pillows and then give a second to just kind of let everything figure itself out. So if you need to readjust your blanket around your feet, take a second to do that. But then once you've got your way here, if it feels comfortable to do so, you're going to open your arms nice and wide. Let your hands be heavy. So we're shooting for a gentle back bend and opening through the chest and an opening through the hips, but hopefully it's feeling very supportive. If at any point your legs do not feel comfortable and you want to come out of this position, bring your legs into constructive rest. But if it feels good to be here and everything feels good and supported, let everything settle down. If it feels available, maybe you close your eyes down. Maybe take a moment here just to notice your breath, watching your inhalation, noticing your exhalation. Take one more breath here. And then when you're ready, slowly, slowly, slowly start to bring yourself up and out. So walk your elbows in and then gently prop yourself up. Take your time as you come up. And then we're just going to move our pillows out of the way, release your blanket out from underneath you. And then if you need that little bit of movement, kind of walk your legs long, give everything a nice little wiggle. And then we do want to have access to our pillows. We're going to find our way into a supported bridge. So if you like, moving your blanket out of the way, reset your pillows so that they'll be underneath your knees. And then we'll kind of scoop them under the butt as we come down. So come down nice and slow, take your time, and then lift your hips up nice and high, and then kind of scooch your pillows underneath your hips in a nice supported way. So take your time as you do that so that it feels like everything's underneath you and offering a nice bit of support underneath your butt, underneath your hips. And then once you've got yourself there, just give a second to kind of let your shoulder heads rearrange, make sure everything feels nice. If at any point the pillows underneath your hips don't feel supported, a yoga block will do the trick, or you can just roll up your blanket and give it a little bit of oomph. But if everything feels good, let your arms fall out naturally, and then see if you can invite some softness in. Soften your front of your belly, soften the front of your hips. Take a moment just to assess if you're holding tension in your feet or in the tops of your toes. See if you can soften your toes, soften your feet, soften the tops of your thighs. Take one more breath here. And then when you're ready, slowly start to just kind of give your feet a little wiggle, and keeping the pillows underneath your hips if you like. Just for funsies, take it into a nice big good morning stretch. Walk your feet nice and long, keeping the pillows underneath you. So you're going to get that nice big stretch through the front of the hips. Reach your arms up and overhead, but only if that feels good. It should feel supported and you should feel like a nice stretch through the front of the body. But if that's too much and too intense, you're going to leave that part off. But if it feels all right, just take a nice big breath. And then when you're ready, walk your feet back up and in, push into your feet, lift your hips up, and then slide those pillows out from underneath you. Take your time as you lower your hips down to the ground, And then once you're there, bend your knees, pull them up into your chest, give yourself a gentle rock side to side. Nice. And then if it feels really good, you're going to take your knees, draw them in circles, go in one direction. And then draw your knees in circles, go the other way. Awesome. And then when you're ready, set your feet down. We're going to toe heel the feet out just a little bit wider and take a couple of gentle windshield wipers. So let your knees drop side to side. Nice. And then the next time your knees drop over to the right, let them sink all the way down. Let your knees get nice and heavy. Here you might feel a little sensation through the front of your left hip, down your left thigh. Might be less sensation in the right knee if your knees are dropped over to the right. So allow just a moment here. Let your knees get nice and heavy. Let that little tug happen at the front of the hips. Soften your belly. Take a nice deep breath in. Slow breath out. One more breath. And then on your next inhale, knees are going to come to center. And then as you exhale, knees are going to drop over to the left. Let them sink all the way down. Let your knees get nice and heavy. And then here again, you might feel sensation through the front of the right hip where that front right pocket would be, maybe slightly down that right thigh. Now see if you can invite some softness into your belly and take a nice deep breath in. Slow breath out. Take one more breath. And then when you feel ready, bring your knees back to center. If it feels good and you want that little extra, you're going to pull the knees into your chest, give yourself one last little squeeze. And now we're going to set up for our Shavasana. So my suggestion is to have legs up the wall. So if you brought a chair along and you want to bring that chair into play, now you're just going to pull it towards the end of your mat, scoot your butt nice and close to it, and then toss your legs over the chair. If you have a wall available, scoot your butt way close to the wall, swing your legs up. In this bent knee position, you still get all the benefits just without that extra bit of gravity with the legs all the way up and overhead. So once you've got your legs in a position that you like, if you're going legs up the wall or legs up the chair, just take a second to make sure everything feels good. Just know that this is an option. If you do not want this position and you just want your traditional Shavasana or whatever position feels good, maybe constructive rest, take a second to find your way there. If you have your blanket handy and you want just that added little sense of being tucked in, or especially if you're in a colder room, you might choose to actually tuck yourself in. But if you want to bring that blanket just across the belly and then kind of tuck it in around your side so you get that sort of cozied in sensation, and then let your arms find a nice comfortable place to be. And then give everything a moment to come back to that soft stillness. Soften your breath. Soften your legs, soften your feet, soften your hips. start to bring your awareness back into your body. Invite some gentle movement into your fingers and your toes. But if you can, allow your arms to still be heavy, your legs to still be slightly heavy. Take a moment here just to notice your breath, and specifically, if you can, tune in and notice your breath coming in and out of your nose, and notice if one side feels a little bit more congested than the other. There's no right or wrong. We just want to kind of tune in and notice. And then if it feels available to do so, start to turn your head just a little bit side to side, inviting a little gentle movement into the head and the neck, a little gentle movement into the cervical spine, maybe deepening the breath here. And then if you've got that blanket tucked around your belly, or if you've got yourself tucked in, take a second to slowly start to remove that blanket out of the way. And then you might just notice. So if you were tucked in and you're feeling pretty warm and cozy, now notice that coolness that you've brought back into the body, and then just start to reawaken everything else. If you got your legs up the wall or up a chair, take a second to invite some movement that makes sense to you there. If you are literally up against the wall, maybe now start to slowly slide those legs down and then start to roll your way onto one side. And then no matter what position you're in, once you've found your way down into that side lying position, pause again. Let your head be heavy. Let one hand find the ground. If you can, close your eyes down and just take a moment here. Take a nice deep breath in, noticing that solid floor beneath you. Nice. And then take your time here. Slowly start to find your way up to a seated position. So you might choose to come to Sukhasana with the legs crossed. And here you might choose to sit back up on your pillow or take your blanket and kind of tuck it under your bum so you have a little seat. But then once you've found your way up to a seated position, take a moment again. Find a nice tall upright spine. Close your eyes down if you can, or just so soften your gaze. We want to focus on our breath coming in and out of the nose again. So see if you can soften your shoulders down, hands just in a comfortable position. Take an inhale through the nose. Notice. Exhale through your nose if you can, and notice. Inhale and notice maybe the coolness of the air as you breathe in. Exhale through your nose. Notice the warmth of the air as you breathe out. Taking one more moment to notice which side feels a little bit more congested than the other, if at all. There's no right or wrong. We just want to notice. And then if you have one side that's slightly more congested, that's the side we're going to close up. My nose feels pretty open on both sides. So now I'm just going to choose my favorite hand. So if one side's just not more congested, pick your favorite hand. And we're just going to take a variation of alternate nostril breathing, but we're just going to stay with one side open and one side closed. So close off the nostril that's either more congested or just the side that's your hand that is your favorite. Close off that nostril. If you can, close your eyes down, and we're just going to focus on that inhalation through that open side. A slow exhalation, let all the air go. And then staying with that breath, breathing in and out through your open side. Take about 2 more cycles of breath here. And then once you've completed your cycles of breath, release your hand that's closing off one side and then come back to your breath, breathing in through both nostrils now. Take a nice, full, generous inhale. Slow but natural exhale. So take your time, let all that air go, but don't force it out. Take about 2 more breaths here. Awesome. And then on your next inhale, bring one hand to the heart, one hand to the belly. Take one breath here. Bring the hand that's on the belly up to the hand that's on the heart. Stack your hands here. Take another breath. Keeping your hands stacked upon your heart as you inhale, lift your chin up to the sky. And then as you exhale, tuck your chin down to your chest. On your next inhalation, you're going to lift your chin up to the sky. Stay there for one extra cycle of breath. So hopefully you're feeling a gentle neck stretch through the front of the neck and the throat. Take another inhale. And then as you exhale, tuck your chin down to your chest. Let your chin get nice and heavy. Stay here for an extra cycle of breath. Nice full inhalation. Noticing the back of your neck and maybe noticing the space between the shoulder blades. Beautiful. And then bring your head to a nice neutral position, eyes closed down if it feels good. Take a nice gentle inhale, breathing in love and gratitude for yourself, for your mind, for your body, and the time that you take to take care of yourself. Take one more gentle inhale and think about letting your shoulders shrug up just a little bit. And then as you exhale, let your shoulders soften, soften your jaw, and think about letting go of anything you're holding on to that won't serve you through the rest of your night. And then when you feel ready, gently lift up through the top of your head, gently open your eyes. I bow to you. Happy, happy Monday.